morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Philip Tura. I'm a lieutenant paramedic with the Bourne Fire Department, and today we're here to discuss fire safety and fall prevention for seniors, or as I like to call you, experienced citizens of the town of Bourne.
Yes, good going.
Well, we do call this senior safe prevention. With me today is Deputy Chief Joseph Carrara, and on duty Lieutenant Kyle Lima. And they will interject and hopefully make my presentation a little more entertaining. But what I'd like to start off with, I need my glasses, is to do a little trivia to start off with. And trivia with bonus questions. So I'm going to start with an easy one. I think even maybe Joe will get this. Probably not Kyle. Who were the neighbors on I Love Lucy? Fred and Ethel. Fred and Ethel Mertz. Very good. The Mertzes. All right. Bonus question. How often should you change the batteries in your smoke detector?
Once a year.
Once a year. So change your batteries in the smoke detector once a year. We usually do that in the fall during Fire Prevention Month because it falls when we turn the clocks back, like a few weeks ago. Once a month, we like to have you test them. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Second question, let's see, this one goes back a little further, maybe not as popular, but what did Dinah Shore see in her Chevrolet?
USA.
She saw the USA in her Chevrolet. Okay.
I remember that.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. That's a long time ago.
You're too young for that.
So you're at Thanksgiving, which is coming up next week, and your granddaughter talks to you about home fire escape plans. She wants to know what the family can do to get out of the house safely. What would you tell her?
Run.
Okay. That's actually the wrong thing. Do not run. The most appropriate thing to do is to make a plan. Make a plan on how you're going to escape. Right. Always know two ways out of your house, and make sure that you designate a meeting place once you're outside. Those are the important parts. Right. I just got a couple other quick ones. Trivia here. What is the largest river in the United States?
Mississippi.
The Mississippi. All right. Your friend, here's your bonus question. Your friend says her new medication makes her sleepy. While she has cut back on her smoking, she still likes a cigarette after dinner. What safety advice can you give her?
Stop smoking.
Stop smoking, but she's never going to stop smoking. So what other? Right. Maybe change your medication. Talk to your doctor, and make sure we don't smoke while we're in bed or while we're in a chair. Make sure we smoke while we're awake. Okay, good. Those are excellent. So why is it important for us to come out and do this fire safety presentation for our experienced citizens? Because research shows that fire prevention and fire safety is extremely important for our older adults. They tend, in the United States, older adults tend to die in fires more than any other population. And as you get into 80 and 85, it's amazing in the lack of mobility to be able to get out of a fire, and it's causing increased fire deaths in that population group. We have young kids, which we've done very good with. The fire service in the United States has done very good in educating them, and over the past 20 years now, we've tried to educate the senior citizens of our community. The other thing that we did the research with it's because they can't get out because of the mobility. We also did fall prevention. We put fall prevention on with this program. So we have 8 points of fire safety, and we have 8 points of fall prevention.
As the Lieutenant said, this is something that we've been trying to target our seniors for years. As he alluded to, we've been going into the schools. And in the town of Bourne, we go into every school, pre-K through the 4th grade, every year. So they're having consistent fire prevention messages taught to them over those years. And we're hoping through that repetition, that is information that will stay with them throughout their entire lives. But as Phil said, the studies were showing that we needed to try to get more information out to adults in our community. And with cooperation with the Council on Aging and funding from the state legislature and the Department of Fire Services, they provide us with money to go around and meet with the seniors. So we're going around to every senior citizen, residents in the town of Bourne.
Group residents.
Group residents, I'm sorry, yes. And then this setting as well. And that's why the camera is so important to have here today. We appreciate the partnership with local TV to reach those homes that aren't represented either here or when we go to the group homes.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So our first point to talk about fire safety is smoking. We just mentioned smoking. 20 years ago, smoking was the #1 cause of house fires in the United States. That has changed, mainly because of now we have safer cigarettes. They actually, if you put them on the ground, for the most part, they put themselves out. They self-extinguish. And the decreased use in tobacco products for smoking. That's been the biggest change. I can tell you as a healthcare provider, paramedic, we see a big decrease in what we call COPD, or the people who used to smoke. When I was younger in my career, 30 years ago, we saw a lot of ladies your age who smoked a lot, and they suffered a lot with COPD. So the good thing is you don't have to deal a lot with smoking, but one of the things that's really important if you do have somebody who smokes, whether they smoke inside the house or outside the house, is to have a large, deep ashtrays. The one issue we did have this summer because of the drought was people smoking outside, and they would catch the leaves or the mulch around the house on fire, and the house would catch on fire. We only had a couple of minor incidents in the town of Bourne, but Massachusetts-wide, because of the severe drought, there were quite a few, including the one in Nantucket. If everybody saw the fire in Nantucket this summer, that was started by smoking materials. Okay.
And on the news, you may see that occasionally, a large housing complex that's sprinkled and it's new construction. It should not be susceptible to a major fire like that because of the sprinkler system. But what happens is, as the lieutenant explains, it catches that mulch outside and it catches the outside of the building on fire. It goes up to where it hits the roof and it gets up into the attic above the sprinkler system, and that's where you have major losses from a simple cigarette in mulch.
So that was our biggest fear and biggest problem this summer. One last thing about ashtrays. We live on Cape Cod. What did you may or may not know this, but what did Cape Codders used to use for ashtrays?
Seashells.
Seashells, quahog shells. They would use large quahog shells. And what would they do? They were rounded and tippy. So we don't recommend that. We recommend deep ashtrays. Okay, number 2. Coming up, very important. Give space heaters space. And I don't have my yardstick, but no matter what type of space heater you have, you want to keep 3 feet all the way around. So if you take a yardstick, stick it out, and go all the way around, you should not have anything in that where it's going to touch. Okay? A chair, a blanket, yourself. You know, these people in this picture appear to be 3 feet away. The
Animals.
space. What's that?
Animals.
Animals as well, yes, because animals, if they're tippy, animals can knock them over. Yep, exactly. So space heaters are to warm up a space, not necessarily you. Okay. Directly. So just give space heaters space.
And we also see that in heating systems. We'll go in homes a lot of times, it might be for a smell of smoke or carbon monoxide call or even a medical call. And around your heating system or your hot water heater in the basement, you should have that 3 feet of clearance from those units because over time, combustible materials, the temperature they need to ignite spontaneously gets lowered. So the longer something is against a heating system, the more susceptible it is for fire. So whether it's a space heater that the lieutenant just explained or your heating system in the basement, make sure you don't have combustibles within a 3 feet perimeter around those.
Be kitchen wise. What did I just say? We went from smoking 20 years ago being the #1 fire starter in America for home fires to the kitchen. Okay, so a lot of that has to do with we're getting older, the population's growing, the population growing to be older. Speaking of the population, did everybody see the 8th billionth person was born yesterday in the world? So now we have a world of 8 billion people. But the biggest thing we find with kitchens is 2 things. One is forgetfulness. Be honest, who's forgotten something on the stove? Okay. Well, I'm here to give you a nice tip. I'm here to give you this tip to help us prevent that. So I'm using my pot holder on the stove. Maybe I should. I'm using the pot holder on the stove, and the phone rings, and I walk away. What do? I take the pot holder off, and I leave it next to the stove, right? Here's your new tip. Don't take it off. Leave it on as the yellow bow around your finger, right? It's a reminder. Keep this on your hand while you're cooking. That way, if you have to walk away and do something else, this will remind you that something's on the oven, or in the oven, or on the stove. All right? It's a really good idea, and actually we have some for you. As you leave, you can grab some if you need some pot holders. The other thing that's really important is, obviously when you're cooking breakfast, okay, is, yes. It's actually, I'm a little too long to put it up, but the point is, if I've got my cooking surface here, and I go and start cooking, where's the danger? The danger is the sleeve. So when we're cooking, wear something, a nice tight shirt like most of you have on now. Wear that instead of the morning robe, where you could potentially catch on fire. All right? So be kitchen wise.
One other thing we do see when we go into people's homes sometimes is they may have a lot of spices or things on the countertop right next to the stove. You know, we all have limited countertop space to do the things we want, but you really want to, again, keep space, like we talked about with space heaters, away from that cooktop, because those things can catch fire if they're too close and the burner's hot. So you want to keep that space on the stovetop as well.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, do you, maybe you don't even know, are there more fires with electric stoves or gas stoves?
It does not matter.
Because I've had gas all my life, and we have electric where we are now. I find I have more danger with the electric stove because it's so quick.
Yeah. Oh, because it heats up quicker.
It heats up quicker.
Yeah. The newer stoves do that. The new electric, especially the conduction cooktops, they heat up almost instantly. Yeah. No, we haven't. There is no difference between them. No. Well, to be honest with you, most of it's human error. Or just forgetting. And that leads us into, if your clothes do catch on fire, you know, as we get older, it's, you know, the kids love rolling around on the floor. Who here wants to be my demonstration and come up and roll around on the floor? I mean, we don't even want to do chair yoga today, right? We want to skip that. So you have to be able to do things around your ability, you know. The biggest thing, if your clothes do catch on fire, is you need to smother them. And the best way to do that is to stop, drop, and roll. The best way to do that is to get to something where you can help yourself down. You know, you need to get on there. You need to get down on the ground and roll around. It's not going to be easy, but that's what has to happen. By trying to fan it or hit it or smother it by yourself, it's not going to work. The real good thing is to get on the ground and roll around.
But what if you can't get down and roll around?
You need to.
We're all down.
Yeah, you need
It's
to.
getting back up.
Back up.
Right, well, hopefully you can get us. Hopefully you can get a hold of us somehow by dialing 911 and get a hold of us. But yeah, we know that it's not easy. We definitely know that it's not easy.
I wouldn't
To
be
do
able
that.
to get up if I tried.
Right, and that's fine, call us and we'll get you up. Okay? We'll get the fire out, whatever, the rest of it, and we'll be able to help you get up, all right? Some of the other things they do is, immerse burns in cool water if you do get burned, if you're able to get up. And burns are a medical emergency. Okay, so you do need to go to the hospital. Everybody see Jay Leno? Jay Leno got burned. Yeah, he just got burned this week by gasoline, a gas flash fire. So they are a medical emergency. Don't if you do get even a minor burn, watch it very carefully. Especially as we get older, our skin's our protector, right? And it doesn't do as good as a job as we get older.
I think it's going to be in one of the slides, but just while we're talking about it, Phil said, if you get down on the ground and you need help up, you call us. We're all paramedics as well, so we're firefighters and we're paramedics. The same firefighters that come out on the fire trucks when there's a fire, the same firefighters that come out in the ambulance when somebody's sick or needs transport. But what number should you be calling if you need the fire department? 911. It's so important to remember that number. Every day when I'm at work, somebody calls the fire department business line and says, hey, I need an ambulance, or my carbon monoxide detectors are going up. Every day it happens that people still dial the 7-digit business line. And the problem with that is, so we have 3-man stations around town. We have Sagamore, which is headquarters, we have Buzzards Bay, and we have Monument Beach. There's 3 guys in each station. If Sagamore is out on a call, a routine medical call takes 3 people. There's 2 on the ambulance, and then there's a deputy or a lieutenant in a car that go out for a routine medical call. That means Sagamore is empty. There's nobody there after hours. During the daytime, you have the chief and the secretary. But after hours, nobody's there to answer the call. So if you need the fire department or the police department, we always encourage you to call 911, because that's the only line we can guarantee somebody is waiting to answer that phone in the town of Bourne. And when you do dial 911 in the town of Bourne, it's answered at the Bourne Police Department. And they will say, Bourne Police recorded line, what is your emergency? Police, fire, or medical. If you have a police issue, you're going to talk to that dispatcher. They're going to take the information from you and dispatch the appropriate equipment. If you say, I need the fire department ambulance, or my house is on fire. If you call 911 and your house is on fire, we want you to get outside first. Just call 911 after you're outside the house. But if you call 911 for the fire department ambulance or fire trucks, you get transferred to the Barnstable County Sheriff's Department. It happens almost instantaneous. It's not like you're going to be on hold for 10 minutes. But you just need to know, if you do dial 911 in Bourne, first it's answered at the police, fire, and medical. If you say, I need the ambulance, they're going to say, stand by. And then another operator at the Sheriff's Department will talk to you, and they'll take the information and dispatch us. But just always remember that 911, not the business line, because we may not be in the station. We might be out on calls and nobody's there to answer the business line.
Okay, thanks. So, smoke alarms is our next topic. Smoke detectors are the #1 life safety device you can have in your home. All right? It's the #1 life safety device you can have in your home. People who have smoke detectors in your home that work properly very rarely are hurt or injured or even killed in a fire. Okay? Very rarely. So, smoke detectors properly working. We mentioned earlier that we want to change the batteries once a year. Okay, we like to do that around October or November when we change the clocks, change your batteries. That's our slogan for the fire service. And we do recommend that you test them once a month, just to make sure they're still working. Give them a little beep. They are a little loud. Make sure everybody else in the household knows. And the way you can do that is by using a broomstick. Do not climb up on a ladder. We see that all the time. People climbing up on the ladder to change a battery and they can't reach it, so they give us a call and we help them out because their batteries, the smoke detector went off and their batteries are beeping. But use a broomstick, please don't climb. There is a button on them. I really can't show you here because these are smoke detectors, but they are right here, this unit right here, but they are tested through a big control panel. And they're low voltage and run to a control panel. The ones in your home are street electricity, about 110 volts. Okay? So, and they're interconnected. Unless you have a really older home built before 1975 or 1980, then your home probably has just battery operated and they don't talk to each other. We like the newer ones because they talk. So if there's a fire in the basement, it talks to the one on the second floor and it lets you know that there's smoke or fire down there. All right. Yeah.
Also, you should have carbon monoxide detectors in your home. And sometimes they're in combination. There's one unit that does smoke and carbon monoxide. But carbon monoxide, it's very important to have those detectors. Carbon monoxide is a gas that is produced when you burn fossil fuels. So oil, propane, natural gas, coal, wood, any of these things we use for appliances for our homes, if they don't vent properly, well, they automatically give off carbon monoxide in the smoke and gas. Hopefully it vents out properly out the flue pipe or the chimney, but there are times that it doesn't. And it's a colorless, odorless, tasteless gas. You do not know it's present in your home. The only way you know it's there is by having a carbon monoxide detector in your home. And you should have one on every level of your home. It should be near your sleeping areas. So if you're asleep, you can hear it outside. Again, you would test it once a month, change the batteries 2 times a year, but it's so important. We go on a lot of carbon monoxide calls and people think, well, it's probably a faulty detector. And a lot of times it's not. We do a lot of calls. My shift last week, we did 2 in one day that were actual carbon monoxide incidents in homes from appliances not venting properly. It could be the gas range, it could be your heating system. It could be a gas fireplace, any of these things. Your car in your garage. If you have a garage and you keep your car in your garage, when you start your car to pull it in and out, you should really leave that garage door open a few minutes and let that carbon monoxide escape before you shut that door. Because then when you go into your house, if you don't vent that garage by leaving the big door open, it comes into your house, you don't know it's there unless you have a detector. Again, if that detector ever goes off, 911, we come out, the fire department with our meters. We'll check all levels of your home and we'll try to determine the cause with that. Sometimes we have to call out the gas inspector or the gas company or a plumbing inspector. But very important to have carbon monoxide. The only homes in Massachusetts that do not require carbon monoxide detectors, anybody know? I know Phil did trivia earlier. There's a certain type of home that doesn't require it in Massachusetts. We talked about fossil fuels. Anybody have an idea?
Range?
Well, I should have said what it's heated by. An electric home.
Solar.
Well, yeah, electricity.
Solar.
If your home is all electric, you don't have a fireplace, you don't have a garage attached, you don't have a gas heating system. If everything is electric in your home, there should not be any production of carbon monoxide, technically. So that's the only home. If you say to them, hey, I don't have an all-electric house, then you should have carbon monoxide detectors in your home. And they usually last about 5 or 7 years. Okay? Smoke detectors, it's usually 10 years. Carbon monoxide, 5 to 7 years based on the manufacturer recommendations. You'll want to replace those.
Isn't it the law you have to have carbon monoxide and the other one?
There is a law. It's only enforceable when we come out when you sell your home. It's the only time we have teeth in that. So if I come in your house for a medical call and you don't have a carbon monoxide detector, you're not selling your home, it's just we came out with the fire department ambulance, I'm going to recommend, hey, you should have a carbon monoxide detector. But we don't have any teeth then. The only time the fire department has enforcement powers on that is when you're selling your home. By law, the fire department has to inspect every home before it's inspected for smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. And that's when we could fail a home inspection and you can't pass papers until you have a certificate from us. There was another question.
A lot of us here live at Bourne Oaks. Do they have carbon monoxide?
I believe they have condos, right?
They are, we'd have to double check that, but I think they are combinations, because they're not like they have the heaters, right? They have
Yeah.
heat in the basement.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, I'm 99.9% sure that you're all set. I think you have combo detectors.
The good thing is you have a very good maintenance person over there, who's usually up, from our perspective, usually up on things. He might not be up on what you think, but for
No, Michael does a great job.
exactly, for the safety part of it, we've dealt with him for quite a few years now, and he's done a good job over there.
He has.
And all the other public housing or town housing, that's all maintained very well too, and appropriate.
Another question, I have a tailgating grill,
Mhm.
and that's propane, right?
When you say
Right.
tailgating,
You
you
use-
use a small grill?
Small.
Yeah, so you only use that outside though, correct?
Oh, no, I did not, I have to tell you, the electricity, I'm honest, the electricity went out for like 4 or 5 days. And
Last
we're-
year, right?
Yes,
Last year.
and we're the last place to
Mhm.
get our electricity back. It starts in probably Nantucket, and then
Then they work their way back to the bridge.
You know, really, yeah, right, and we were freezing,
Yeah.
so, and how are we gonna cook? So we did cook, yeah, in the kitchen. I put a mat down, a special mat.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, but we want you using that outside.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
but it was cold.
I know.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, it was October last year.
Yeah.
It was a couple weeks
Come
ago.
for days upon days.
Yeah.
One thing I want to mention on the combination detectors, which I think is what you have there, if combination means it's detecting smoke and carbon monoxide. If it does that in Massachusetts to meet the code, it has to talk to you. Okay, years ago when they first came out, these combination detectors, they'd give one beeping pattern for smoke and maybe another beeping pattern for carbon monoxide. It was confusing. People would say, oh, must be a faulty smoke detector. I don't see any smoke. So in Massachusetts, to meet the code, it has to have a voice that says smoke or fire or carbon monoxide to make it clear to you that, because if it's saying smoke and you don't see smoke, well, okay, I can get that, it's a faulty detector. But if it was just doing a beep pattern, it could be carbon monoxide and you would not know. So if it does both gases, smoke and carbon, it has to differentiate with a voice telling you smoke or carbon monoxide.
There you go.
And we'll follow up as well.
Yeah. He does a good job.
Yes, it does. All right, so back to what we talked to at the beginning. One of my questions was planning and practicing your escape. Okay, so if you live at Bourne Oaks, you probably live alone, but you right next door, very close to somebody that you know very well.
Mhm.
So maybe you should talk about planning your escape. What would be for yourself in your own place is to plan your escape. No two ways out. They're fairly small
There's 2
apartments.
ways out, you got a hallway.
Right, you've got the back slider usually,
Yeah.
and the front door, right? But what's important for you as a community over there to know? What were the 3 things I talked about? Make a plan,
Mhm.
no two ways out, and what's the last one? Everybody
A
remember?
meeting place.
A meeting place.
Meeting.
So it would be good to know with your neighbor to know where to meet. So that's really important for us. When we show up at a fire, we like to somebody from that residence we like to talk to make sure everybody's out. We like accountability. We're still going to check, but we like accountability. But it would make peace of mind for you in a community like that to everybody meet in the same place.
Mhm.
Okay?
We've got a community room, you should come up and talk to.
Yeah.
that
We
might-
have done this presentation there probably 15 to 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we could certainly do that again. I think actually,
remember
it might
I
be-
think it's on the
I
schedule.
think it might be on the schedule for later on in the year. But the meeting place, so no two ways, make your plan, no two ways out, and a meeting place. Those are the 3 important things that you need to
Yeah, we
do.
also have pull cords in case something happens.
You do,
Right. Yeah, so
Does that
those,
go directly to you?
no, that,
That's the one
That's-
that sets off an alarm.
right,
on
so
the
that's
property.
just what we call a local alarm. And those are in your bathrooms, correct?
Bathroom,
Yeah, so if you
and,
were to fall, so we get that all the time, we get a 911 call from a neighbor that says, I hear a ringing going off, and that's a local alarm that you pull, and we'll come out. We may send a fire truck and an ambulance, because we're not sure which alarm, they can't usually differentiate. But if the fire alarm goes off in your buildings, that goes to us as a fire.
Okay.
So if the smoke detector goes off, that goes to us. If it's that pull cord, it will be your neighbor that has to call.
Okay. I'm dead.
Well, if you pulled it, you're not dead yet. We'll get to you.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because we also have those in 871 Shore Road has those.
Yeah,
They're
same thing.
only helpful if somebody hears that,
Yeah,
right? So if you fall, it's better than nothing.
right.
But if nobody hears it, you could be on the floor 4 or 5 hours or longer.
No.
I don't know if anybody has those bracelets or the neck pendants, those
You're right.
monitoring devices. You know, those are helpful if you're living alone and there's nobody else there to call 911 for you. Because those are monitored by a company, and then they call us and say, hey, we've received a medical alarm from 2 Main Street, and then we respond.
Okay, so 911, Joe mentioned about how it works in the town of Bourne and what to do. We really want you, if you think you have an emergency, not to call the business line, call 911. Now, I know most people don't have this type of phone anymore, but if you do have a landline or a local phone, that is the best thing to use to call 911. It is. But your cell phone still works, but a landline is good, and this one here is appropriate for people who are getting a little more difficult to see, has nice big numbers on it, and if you have hearing, this particular phone actually, if you have hearing loss, dictates what the person on the other end is saying. So if you have good eyesight and bad hearing, this will print out, this particular phone has a nice screen, will print out what they're saying. Okay, so there are what we call adaptive devices, which you can have in your home.
So I do have a big dial.
You do have a big telephone, yeah.
So 911 on that one,
Yep, so use that, if you can, use that. If you can't, you know, you can use a cell phone.
huh? Okay,
Okay?
good. Winnie, that would be good for you.
But there are other adaptive things that we can use. But I just want to point that out. Okay. So how are we going to escape? Well, we need to plan our escape, and we need to practice our escape using your adaptive devices. If you use a locker and the alarm goes off and you need to get out, don't take the cane, take the walker. Okay? It might be nighttime, you might be excited, the terrain might not be good, which way you're going, if you're going out the back door versus the front door, which you normally go out. I want you to take any adaptive device that you can, okay, to get out of the residence. If you need to take the walker, take the walker, okay. We've had a couple of alarms at one of our other bigger buildings in town, and people either take everything or nothing. Okay, and the ones who take nothing have a tendency to fall. So we're trying to deal with a fire situation, and then we have to deal with a fall situation with somebody. We can handle it. It just takes more resources away from the fire end if there really is a fire. But have a telephone near your bed. Make sure that, you know, if you can get in and out of your wheelchair, if that's what you have. Hopefully you have, if you do use a wheelchair, you have wheelchair accessible ramps to use, and you can get yourself out in a fire. But you have to plan it. And you need to take your time. We're going to talk about taking your time a little later in our fall prevention. But you need to take your time and plan your escape and use those adaptive devices. All right? If you can't get out, I should mention, if you can't get out, even says it right here, if you can't get out, use that phone and call us and stay where you are, and we'll come get you. Okay, so now we're going to talk about fall prevention. So we've talked about fire safety. Does anybody have any questions, any more questions? There have been good questions about fire safety. All right.
Phil, can I just jump in?
Yep.
Phil mentioned about calling us. If you're in a room and you can't get out, you can always call us and say, hey, I'm in 2 Main Street, the house is on fire, I can't get out of the 2nd floor bedroom. If you tell us that helps us a lot. You can also tell us in advance, if you have somebody that's bedridden in your home that can't get themselves out, if you let us know that in advance, we can make a note at our dispatch center. It's a computer-aided dispatch center. We could put a note that there's a resident at 2 Main Street that is bedbound and cannot evacuate in case of emergency. And that's nice for us to know, because as we're responding to a reported house fire, our dispatch center is going to hopefully tell us where the hydrants are and any other notes. They may say, there's a person in the second floor that can't evacuate. So that's good information for us to know in advance if you have somebody that you or they are not going to be able to evacuate in an emergency.
Okay, so how are we going to prevent falls? The first most important thing is chair yoga.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Exercise, okay?
Yeah.
Does most everybody live at Bourne Oaks? It's no. Okay. Well, for those of you that do, and I'll use that as an example, it's pretty level. It does have some elevation, but it's got some pretty good walkways. Correct? We can get out and walk. Okay. Take your devices that you're going to use. Take the walkers and take those steps. If you don't, try and walk within your house. Okay. We are at the fire department. I can't go out for a walk, but in the stations where I have exercise equipment, that's great. I can do that. If not, I can walk around the building. When we were in Pecasset, I used to walk around the playground. Get some exercise that way. So anything you can do to exercise will help you. Just a simple walk, even if it's just for a few minutes, it will help keep your strength and mobility. And improve your balance, and it improves your coordination. Right? Take your time. If you've been sitting for a long time, so when we adjourn this presentation, take your time getting up. Do not rush. All right? By trying to get up quick and moving quickly, it increases your chance of falling. If you've been sitting for a long time, listening to me talk, when you stand up, it may take a minute for your blood pressure to catch up, especially if you're on medication. All right? So make sure you take your time getting out of a chair, getting out of bed, and get your balance before you start walking. All right? Clear the way. She has no rugs in front of her. Rugs are one of our number one causes we see of trips and falls in your home. All right? Clear the way. Make sure there's no clutter. Stairways. You see people that put their stuff on the stairways. There's stuff there that could stairs are supposed to be so far apart, and there's a reason for that, for you to get up and down easily. If they're cluttered with items, laundry, or just decorations, it's going to make it more difficult for you. When we have to carry somebody down off the second floor of their home constantly, we're moving things. We're moving corner tables and things like that to get them down. Right. So keep them stairways and walking areas free of electrical cords, shoes, clothing, books, magazines. Right. Make sure those areas are clear so that you can get around. All right. Look out for yourself. All right. Night lights. Some of the best things we can do for ourselves at night. We're all getting up at least once or twice at night, right? So we need to make sure we have good night lights. If you live in a newer home where you're having electrical outlets changed, they now build the night lights right into the electrical outlets. They'll shine down on the ground at night. I have a 125-year-old home. I don't have those. But what I do have is I have a little flashlight that plugs in and stays charged. And when the power goes out, the light comes on. Right? And I can do a switch and throw it to a night light if I need to. So make sure you can have good visibility even at night. All right. You want to be able to see, which increases, if you can see and have good vision, it increases your chances that you're not going to fall. Improve your lighting. If you have a handyman or something that you see in a dark area, you can get them over and have them install some lighting. I've even seen people, and we'll talk about it in a second, that have put the new LED lights in their walkways and their stairs. Those are very nice. There's a very thin strip. If you have granddaughters, ask them about it. They have it in their room. All the girls have it in their rooms now. okay? Slippery when wet. All right, so I mentioned some adaptive devices. This device is a handle you can attach to your tub to get in and out, so slippery areas, or even better would be to have grab bars installed, so that as you transition in and out of the tub, that you have those devices to help you in and out. Even if you've got to the point where you need it, is to have a shower chair, where it starts it's inside and outside the shower. You can sit down in it and then transfer it into the shower, into the bathing area, to get clean. Spilled liquids, wipe them up. Take your time and wipe them up. Don't leave them there and then try and slip on them. Okay? So, adaptive devices are very good for you. All right, here comes the one you're not going to want to hear. Throw rugs. Okay? Very important that if you're going to have a throw rug or an area rug, especially in the bathroom, that it has a good backing. Okay? The thing we don't like to see is the rug on top of the rug. Okay? You know, especially your entranceway, or it's also your exit way, where you try and save that nice carpet that the wall carpet you have done down with a remnant, and it just slips and slides all over the place and causes a tripping hazard. So please, if you are using an area rug or a throw rug, make sure it has a non-slip backing, non-skid backing, and that it's smoothed out and doesn't wrinkle. If it's constantly keeps wrinkling on you, you want to throw that out and get something that's new and does not do that. We see the throw rugs all the time that are the cause of the fall. Stair treads. We want to tread carefully. So if you have stairs in your home, you want to make sure that the tread or the stairs are not a slippery surface, that you put treads on them, that you have handrails, and that you use those properly. Right? Easy to grip handrails along both sides, the full length. We see that constantly with the handrails short the last two steps. Right? And those are some of the more important steps that you need, the transition to the floor, to the ground floor, or the transition to the upper floor. Earlier, when I started, I mentioned the knee bone's connected to the thigh bone. More importantly, and this has become more important and true, is that the eye bone is connected to the hip bone. Okay, and that's in the medical world, where if your vision is poor and you trip and fall, more than likely you have the increased chances of injuring or even breaking your hip. Okay, so make sure your eyes are the best you can be. You have corrective lenses. You have devices that you may use, right, to help you. In case you come across that trip hazard, make sure that you have corrective eyewear that is good for you as you're going up and down stairs or traversing someplace. In your own home, you know it very well, right? Well, next week, if we go to relatives' houses, you might not know it so well. All right, so make sure you have good eyes and good treads wherever you're going. And last but not least is put your best foot forward. We're going up to the ball. Okay? This might be fine for my 17-year-old daughter. Mm-hmm. She would not fit in, what did I say, size 6 medium. She would not fit in these anyway. But, as we get older, this is probably not the best foot forward, correct? And as I've looked here, this is the first thing I did this morning, was look at our footwear that you're wearing. We're wearing nice, good soles, appropriate wear. Everybody has that on, that's good. Some have ties, some have Velcro. Whatever is best for you to get in and out of daily. that has good support. Okay? I just recently got some new work shoes, and my feet feel so much better because the soles were worn off the other ones, right? So these are very nice and comfortable work shoes. You want to make sure you have nice flat bottom shoes. At this point, ditch the heels. Okay, ladies, ditch the heels. Get something nice. Maybe a little more fashionable than these, but I think this gets the point across. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about fall or fire prevention? All right, that's, yeah.
We didn't talk about files, right?
Oh, yeah, you can do it.
So, just to get back, I just talked to Kari. She has been trying, come out to your site at Bourne twice. She's trying to connect with Mike. It will be on our schedule before the end of the year.
Okay.
If you want to talk to Kari, if you want to have Mike reach out to Kari, they'll schedule that, and then Kari invites us, and we have a great working relationship with the Council on Aging.
What would you like me to reach out about?
About us coming out and doing this,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, if you see him,
Just making myself clear.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
You can just say that Kari from the Council on Aging has been trying to connect
Oh, yeah.
with so we can come out and give this presentation to you and your
That'd be great.
neighbors.
Yeah, that would.
File of Life, is anybody familiar with this program?
Yes.
Okay, so really important, this is a magnetic envelope. Ideally, you hang this on your refrigerator, but the paperwork inside is really the most important thing. You can go on the Bourne Fire Department website and you can print one of these out. I suggest doing that and keeping it in your purse, because if you're traveling and you need medical attention, you can pull that out. And it just gives us a great insight into your medical history. As far as what you have in your past, if you're diabetic, if you have a stroke history, and it helps lead us in our treatment a lot of times. But so this hangs on your refrigerator. You keep this updated. I suggest in pencil, because things change, medical history changes, medications change. And then one of the first things we do when we come in a home with the fire department ambulance is we're looking for that. But again, you can you can take these, we have them, or you can print them out for those that are watching this at home on bournefire.com, and it's just a file of life, and you can print it on your printer. The other thing, oh, go ahead.
I have 3 of those. I have one in this purse. I have one in my walker. I don't usually use a cane, I use a walker. And I have one on my refrigerator.
I think you're very well covered then.
Yes.
That's perfect.
It's got my medications on it and my whole life on it.
We're going to take you around to any future presentations. You're going to be our poster child for
Well,
that
I have
program.
a daughter that was a school teacher and she's very thorough. It has
There you go.
everything on it.
Another thing that we have that we deal with the Council on Aging on a weekly basis is a Knox box program, and I don't know if anybody has that. So if you live in a private home, your own home, and you're concerned that if you're living alone and you have to call for the ambulance, that you're not going to be able to unlock the door, and you're concerned, if we show up and somebody's inside and there's no way we can get in, we're going to walk around, we're going to check all doors and any windows. The last thing we want to do is damage your home. But there's times if you are unable to answer that door and you've called for help that we do have to force a door or a window. But the fire department union has bought Knox boxes. It's a small vault. It looks like a little black safe. And you can apply for one of these through the Council on Aging, through Carrie. And what it does is it hangs over your exterior door. And the fire department are the only ones that has a key to that little vault. And we lock your home front door key in that vault. So if we come out and you can't get to the door to let us in because of a medical emergency, the fire department has the key to open that vault, and we can get your key out, and then we can open your door without causing any damage. We do not have an unlimited supply, and that's why the program, in conjunction with the Council on Aging, you apply, and Kari will come out once approved, and the fire department comes out on that same day. We secure your key in there, and then that gives you peace of mind that if you need us, we can come in without having to cause any damage to get in.
One point is, if you do live in the public housing or you live in Bourne Oaks, you don't have to worry about that. We have one of those there that we're able to get into everybody's. So those are already there. Those are those are for people who live in private dwellings.
Okay, I have a question. I have a key box
Okay.
mounted around my deck,
Mhm.
but that wouldn't do
That's
you
not gonna,
guys
that is not,
anything if
so a
I
lot of
find
people
you-
have that, that's great for your relatives to get in, a key box or a hidden key, that's really nice for them, but it's not gonna do much for us.
Right,
Unless,
unless I can tell you.
and so, right, so if you do have one of the alarm buttons, the fallen and I can't get up buttons, you can have them store that information and they can relay that to us.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so if you have one of those, that's how you can do it, or any type of an alarm system. They can keep that information. But if you qualify and need one of those boxes, one of those vaults, you can get that through contact Carrara and the Council on Aging, and they can get that for you.
Okay. You were talking about lights,
Mm-hmm.
and this past week, we lost lights for 3 or 4 times.
Yes.
And then finally come on good.
Mhm.
But my daughter has Home Depot, she buys everything there, and she's got this jigger, I forget what you call it, Gerald or something,
Mm-hmm.
and you charge it, and then you take this other part and you put it in it, and if you lose light,
Right.
all you have to do is press the button, and you don't need electricity, nothing.
Right, there are a lot of those products out now. Like I mentioned, I have one that stays plugged in all the time, and when the power goes out, it automatically comes on.
Yeah,
There are other units, and I have a big one
yeah.
where battery operated. I can take it anywhere.
We went on a trip out to Utah and Colorado and all that, and we needed to do the watches and something else, and we
Oh, you can
in the
charge it.
car, so we plugged it into that. It's just great. So if anybody
Yeah.
wants to know information on that, I could tell them that.
All
They
right,
could
that's
get it.
that's good information to have. Good batteries.
How about fire extinguishers? Shouldn't we all have one of
So,
those?
so fire extinguishers are good. Fire extinguishers are only to help you get out of a fire situation, not to fight the fire. That's why you see them mounted at doorways, mounted over there, okay? That's why pull stations are mounted near doorways in public buildings. They're to help you escape a fire, not to actually fight the fire. All right, so we do recommend that you have one. I have a nice small one right in my kitchen area between my stove and my door to get out of the kitchen. That's why it's there, so that if there is a fire and I can't get it out quickly on the stove top, then I can just have that so I can escape my home. Yes.
I also feel that I'm wearing the best shoe in captivity.
All right. It's a nice slide-on shoe, so I didn't mention those types of shoe. I mentioned Velcro
This
and,
one is, it cannot fall off from your feet.
well, there you go.
It's high enough on the instep so that you have to kick it off.
Good. That's
When we
that's
go to
amazing.
put
You
it
should
back on,
you should be the salesman.
I wouldn't wear anything else.
The old door-to-door salesman.
Yeah.
One other thing, just house numbers. You know,
Yeah,
if
that's
you're
good.
living in a private residence, not like a Bourne Oaks or Keystone Place, and you live in your own home, it's really important to have a house number that at nighttime, if it's pouring rain, that we're gonna be able to see that. Because there's times we're driving up a street and there's no house numbers and we're trying to get to a home quickly. Ideally, the way the bylaw reads in the town of Bourne is it's a 4-inch house number. And you want it to stand out, so you don't wanna have a brass number on cedar shingles that it just kind of blends in. It should be like a black number on a white background, or something like that that's going to grab our attention. You have to think of the worst case scenario. We're coming out in a rain or a snowstorm, and if we're driving up and down a street, and it wastes valuable time. So a 4-inch house number visible from the street, and if your house is set back, you might have to put it out on a post out front, and you want 4 inches. Just think of the worst case scenario, how you can make it so you can be identified quicker.
That's probably something nice to say to Michael and get East Point to do that. Ours is about that big, on top of the door. Nobody can find anything, like even today, the bus came to pick me up.
But at Bourne Oaks, when we get that address, we're getting the street narrowed down. It's
Oh.
pointing us right in that direction. Bourne Oaks, I've never had an issue.
No, there's never been an issue.
No, it is well labeled for
And
us.
you're pretty well lit at night.
She's
I just well lit it now.
She's pretty well lit.
I tried to get us big a number, girls.
Secrets out. on a committee here, and Council on Aging, on, that, about 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Oh, the house, that triad house numbering that we
The
did?
triad.
That was a
And I
great
had to go
program.
around, I had the badge and all that. I had to go around because people were looking, they weren't gonna answer the door. And I had to go around to several houses, several areas.
That program really did increase the visibility of the house,
Yeah.
the house numbers in the town. We
Yeah.
haven't done that in quite a while, maybe we should think about doing that
Do it again. Yeah, so what I used to tell them is put it on your mailbox because it's
That
right
too.
out easy
Yeah.
or any place else. And it was quite a big success.
It was, it increased our ability to have house numbers on houses a lot in the town.
First they looked at me and said, who the hell is she selling? What the hell is she selling?
Yeah, that was a great committee. Thank you for your efforts. It did help us on a
I didn't
daily
mean to say it
basis.
for that, but, you know, it was quite an experience, and I got to meet a lot of people, the neighbors and all that, that I
Right.
didn't know and everything. And it was a big help, so people had mailboxes, put them out on the mailboxes, plus on your house doors. and
Right,
something.
right.
Something we do run into is sometimes people may have a rock in their front yard that they put the number on. The problem is when it snows, that's covered. Or they put it on their interior door. Maybe they have a storm glass door, but they have it on the solid interior door, and then they're trying to help us. They put a light on, they open the door, but the number, then when the door is open, is not visible.
Well, this time of year, they put the decoration in front of it, so you can't see
Can
it.
I ask you about the fire station on Barlow's Landing? Is that
Sure.
ever gonna open again?
It will probably never open on Bowers Landing. But it is a call department station now, so people who live in that area, firefighters who live in that area, or the few people we have on call department will go in there for the one fire engine that's there. You'll see in the next couple of weeks, I believe, the selectmen talking about the new fire station and where they want it.
Just a little bit, if I can bring everybody up to speed on what we're talking about. So we have two stations on the south side of the canal. We have Barlow's Landing Road, 311 Barlow's Landing Road, right by the post office in the ball field. And we have the Monument Beach Station, which is just behind the post office in Monument Beach. For 30 years, there's been nobody at Monument Beach, and we've had guys stationed on Barlow's Landing Road. There was an issue discovered that was getting worse. The floor of the Pocasset Station, Barlow's Landing Road, there was an open meeting room downstairs that public could use, but the weight of the apparatus over years and water is causing that floor to sag. It can no longer hold the weight of our ambulances and trucks. So what we did on the south side, so the only protection was Pocasset as far as manned firefighters. They've moved those firefighters to the Monument Beach location because there's no basement. They can put the trucks inside. The problem is the building itself is not habitable. So we have a trailer operating for the guys as living quarters right next door. There's a trailer that they stay in. The apparatus is kept inside in the structure, the station that's not habitable to live in. The town has a committee that's working very hard to identify a site on the south side of the canal and replace those two stations with one new station. And right now they're trying to go through site selection. You know, we're probably a couple years off before you see a new station on that south side actually open. But the coverage for the south side has not changed. It's just changed from where they're operating out of. We still do, as the lieutenant mentioned, we have a truck in one of the bays in Barlow's Landing. So if we're off duty and a call comes in, there's one bay out of 3 that can hold trucks there, only one. So we can't house an engine in an ambulance. But it does have an engine there, there's just no staff there anymore.
So I live off Barlow's Landing. So if I called the fire department, where would they come from, Monument Beach?
If everybody's available, nobody else is on calls, then the first station in is gonna be Monument Beach
Okay,
to your location.
okay. I was talking to my brother about this, and he was a Cambridge firefighter. What if I needed somebody in a hurry, and I mean, Monument Beach isn't gonna respond, and that means Buzzards Bay would have to come over the bridge
Would be
to
your
come
next,
to...
would be your next Yes, that would be your next fire station, next closest fire station.
Okay, would Falmouth ever get involved? Do you call town to town?
We do. We have a very good mutual aid system in Barnstable County. We do call town to town. We probably do that weekly. But that's when multiple calls are in progress. That's when all 3 stations are out doing calls, then we'll call in
So
Falmouth.
that's a last resort?
Yeah.
So
That's
it
correct.
would be coming from hopefully Monument Beach, but if not, then
If
they
we're,
gotta
bu-
come
if
over
we're
the
busy,
bridge.
there is a potential that they're gonna come over the bridge. And I think that, and I can't speak for the town or the selectmen, but I think their goal is to get this built before the bridge's construction starts, because that's gonna be an issue.
Yeah, there's no fire, no rescue or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So it hasn't changed, for when I started almost 29 years ago, that's when they reopened the stations on the south side. So 29 years ago, there was no coverage on the south side. So when I was hired back then, that's when the Pecasset Fire Station reopened. And so for 29 years, we've had coverage there on the south side, but we've only had one station or the other. So you have the same coverage that you had for the past 29 years. It's still there. But that needs to change, and they're working.
And just to put it all into perspective, we do about 5,000 emergency calls a year between fires and medical calls, about 5,000. It happens that almost daily that we might have to rely on another community to assist us. Because let's say you have a medical call or a fire alarm on the south side of the canal. Then the next station to cover that area, if a call comes in for the second call, is going to be Buzzards Bay. And then it's a shell game how we move people around. But then when we have 3 calls going on at once, which happens a lot, then we have to rely on outside communities that they respond to mutual aid ambulance or a mutual aid fire truck, depending on the emergency. And we have those arrangements set up, and we do that as well. We go to Sandwich, we go to Wareham, we go to Falmouth. They're called mutual aid agreements.
So in the summertime, when the tourists are here, is that your busiest time? You have so many people?
We're very steady year-round, but yeah, we do see a spike in the summertime because the population, increases. So there's more people, there's more incidents. The tough part with Bourne is the geography of our town with the canal splitting us in traffic, which we all know now is not just a weekend summer thing, it's year-round. I mean, it's every day of the week you're trying to get around the bridges. So we are steady year-round, and we're hopeful with this new station on the south side that they're going to hopefully look to add staff, because as traffic gets worse, if you're waiting for Buzzards Bay or you're waiting for Sagamore to be the second in response, in certain times that's really delayed. So the fire chief is an advocate of trying to build up staff on that south side so that we have more people available to respond for that first, second, and third emergency over there.
They're not volunteer firefighters, are they all
So
regular?
we have what we call a combination department. We have 42.
42 counting the chief. Oh,
Right. Yeah, good.
There's 42 full-time firefighter, paramedics, and EMTs, and that's counting the chief and assistant chief. They're divided up into 4 shifts, of 10 people. At a minimum, we have 9 people on duty any time of the day, and that's 3 in Buzzards Bay, 3 in Monument Beach, and 3 in Sagamore. So 3 people at each station. We also have 10 on-call firefighters that if we have multiple emergencies or we have the large emergencies, that they come in and they assist.
So I've got 3.
You have 3
3 in
people.
Monument Beach.
You have 3 that cover your district, yes.
Okay.
Who's this young man that's been standing by so patiently?
Well, this is Lieutenant Kyle Lima, and he's been with our department probably 15 years or 10 years. But I feel bad.
He still looks like he's 14, yes.
I don't want to put him on the spot, but when we were talking about that new station, I pulled him aside afterwards. Kyle is the vice chair of the station subcommittee that's looking at this whole station. You may have seen him, he spoke at town meeting to present a report. So if there are questions, Kyle is probably better suited, not to drag him up here, but he's very involved in that whole process.
I think we gave you a pretty good overview of what's going on.
Very good.
Kyle,
Thank you.
you can talk to Kyle later on if you have anything specific. I'll grab away.
Pass out your phone number, Kyle.
The batteries.
Let's get the phone number.
Changing the batteries once a year.
Twice a year.
Well, once at minimum, but twice if you can.
Okay.
Testing them once a month.
Would you people come out to do that for me?
Do
We
you have-
can't reach the.
Do you have any children, Mrs. McMahon?
No.
I grew up with Mrs. McMahon. That's it. And I'm on the state hazmat team with her son. He's a firefighter. I never would have said that to anybody else. Yeah, so if there's an issue like that and somebody can't change their batteries, then we will try to come out and help. I get a little, I can't say that we don't have the staff to go around and schedule these, but if somebody calls, it's like if there's a cat in a tree, we're gonna come out and try to help if somebody calls. You know, we're always gonna try to come out and help you.
She just wants company.
That's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you so much.